thank you for coming, We're recording this, by the way, so if you know anybody who needs the information later, just have them get in touch with me. I'm happy to send around the link. And for those who don't know, I just want to introduce, we have Eliane Menassian from the Graduate Institute, who is the head of international programs there. And then we also have with us today Rebecca Hovey, who is our Dean for International Study. And many of you know, of course, Lisa Johnson, who is our Assistant Dean for International Study. And we are also honored to have Neva Newcomb, who is a Smith graduate in her 5th year of the BA+MA program and is actually in Geneva as well right now. And we're expecting Sella, who is the head of admissions. Is that right, Eliane?
Absolutely.
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen if you give me 1 second. Hold on a sec, let me get this here. This is information that you will, okay, so you can all see this now, right? Hold on a sec. The BA+MA program, is that good? Okay. So thank you for coming. We have, as many of you know, we have a joint BA+MA program with the Graduate Institute of International Development Studies in Geneva. The Graduate Institute is genuinely one of the world's premier institutes for studying international relations and development. I'm happy to tell you that we are in our, I think I checked this morning, we're actually entering our 7th year of running this program. And though there are other colleges in the US that now maintain this sort of joint program with the Graduate Institute, correct me, Eliane, if I'm wrong, but I believe we were first. We were the first school to run this BA+MA program.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and we've sent essentially roughly an average 2 to 4 students a year, and they've pretty much been very happy with this program. I have to tell you, in honesty, all but one over the 6 previous years have finished the program. So I think that's a really good track record, and it speaks to the quality of the program and to the enthusiasm felt by our students. So if you look at the page I'm sharing now, this is available to you to look at. It's on the International Study Office website, and it's just a summary. I'm just going to run through the highlights of this way this is set up. So we have, as I said, we're entering our 7th year of a program that enables a small number of Smith students each to go to Geneva after they graduate to complete the BA from Smith and the MA, the Master's from the Graduate Institute in 5 years. If you did this without doing the program, if you did a BA and then went to Geneva to study at the Graduate Institute, it would take you 6 years. So there's a year saved through this program. And the way we've structured it is that students spend the fall semester of their senior year in Geneva at the Graduate Institute. They then return to Smith for the final semester, the spring semester of their senior year. They graduate, and then they go back to Geneva for 1 additional year, after which they've got their master's degree. I'm going to let Michal talk a little more about these later, but these are when you apply to the Graduate Institute to do a master's, you apply into a specific track, and Neva can talk about this as well. And these are there are 5 disciplinary tracks, and correct me if this has been updated since I've had this information. There are 2 interdisciplinary tracks. Our students have been involved in these tracks, all but 2 of them. I don't think we've sent anybody to the anthropology and sociology development track yet, although we could. And we don't send students to international law largely because our students don't have the right kind of legal training from an undergraduate degree in the US. But we've sent students to international economics. We have a student there right now, in fact. And this is the one track where you would have to do the GRE in advance. International history, where Neva is now enrolled, if I'm not mistaken. International relations and political science, these are the disciplinary tracks. And the 2 interdisciplinary tracks, MIA, Masters of International Affairs, and Development Studies. As I said, I'm going to let our colleagues at the Graduate Institute talk a little more about these tracks and kind of what they involve and what they lead to. Let me just say a word about eligibility. This is a graduate program, so there's no language prerequisite, there's no French prerequisite. Most classes at the Graduate Institute are taught in English. If you have limited French or no French, you would study French there as part of your program. Our own requirements are a GPA of 3.5 or higher, You must have completed 96 credits of coursework by the end of your junior year. In other words, no credit deficit, no Smith credit deficit after your third year. And you must not have spent both semesters of your junior year at an off-campus program. If you have, then you're not eligible to apply, because Smith has a residency requirement such that you have to spend at least two of your last 4 semesters on campus. And if Lisa wants to correct me or add anything after, you're welcome to do that. The application process is you apply through the Smith Office of International Study. Again, Lisa can speak more about that. Our next deadline is February 8th. You'd write up a statement. We then pre-select. We recommend a small number of students, and then you have to apply again to the Graduate Institute. You go through their normal application process with a firm deadline, and Eliane can support me on this, a firm deadline of March 1st. At least that's the way it has been in past years. We can talk more about that later. So again, you apply through Smith, we select, we then recommend to the Graduate Institute. At that point, you apply to the Graduate Institute by filling out, applying as you would normally. In terms of the cost, during your 4th year of study, that is the fall semester in Geneva, you pay as if you're still at Smith. You pay as if you're going to study abroad. So if you receive financial aid from Smith, that travels. Smith will cover your expenses in Geneva during the fall semester of your senior year, and will give you a stipend, and will pay your room and board and your tuition. During the 5th year, of course, after you have graduated from Smith, you are responsible for paying your own tuition to the Graduate Institute. You also pay room and board and other incidental costs. My colleagues there in Geneva can speak more about this, but you can also apply for financial aid at the time that you apply to enter the program. And I think Eliane and Michal could probably speak more about that. Regardless, the estimated cost for an academic year in Geneva is 26,000 Swiss francs. That includes room and board and tuition and other incidental expenses. That's approximately 28,000 US dollars right now, which is a lot. But to be perfectly honest, if you were to do a master's in international relations at an American graduate school, you would be doing it for 2 years at tuition, and each tuition would probably be about, tuition plus room and board would be probably double this. So financially, this would represent a fairly efficient way of actually getting a master's degree. I think that's really all I was going to say. And I think what we might do is, Michal there yet, Eliane? Not yet. I think maybe we'll have Neva speak a little bit about your experiences there, Neva.
I'm here if you need me.
Oh, you are here.
I'm here.
Oh, good. Perfect timing. So we're going to hold off on you, Neva, for a minute. So Michal, I just did an overview of the application process and the different tracks, very, very generally. But it might be helpful if you want to present the Institute, talk a little bit about the tracks, and talk a little bit about admissions.
Sure, I'm happy to stay, to hold back and let somebody else speak. I know that we started this a little bit late, and I apologize for that.
No, actually, this is perfect, to be honest.
Okay.
I was going to speak for 5 minutes, then I was going to ask you to speak, to present the Institute.
Okay, no problem. How long do I have?
Is 10 minutes enough?
I can try to rush through
so why don't we say 10 to 15 minutes?
Right, okay.
I want to leave a little time for questions at the end.
Sure, and just to confirm, Howard, hi everybody. Your students will be looking primarily at our interdisciplinary programs, correct?
Not necessarily, no.
Not necessarily.
The
Okay.
programs that they would not be looking at are international law. That's the only one that's really excluded. But other than that, we've had students in disciplinary and interdisciplinary. In fact, Neva, who's here with us now, is in the history track.
Okay. All right, great. So hi, everyone. I'm Michal. I'm in charge of the admission office. I work alongside with Eliane, who is in charge of our international programs in the Student Services Office here in Geneva. I apologize for my late arrival. We went into winter daylight time yesterday, so we're a little turned around here. Sorry about that. So I hope you guys are all doing well. I have an online presentation that I'm going to use. I'm going to share my screen and hope that it works. When I said that, it usually doesn't. So let me see, where is my presentation? Of course, it's not where it should be. So I'm going to go into my browser and let's see. Okay, can somebody just let me know if you can see what I'm seeing,
Yes,
which is a
we
screen
see
that
it,
says
but
a commitment to excellence,
yes, we
right?
see it.
Okay, this is our standard presentation. It's sitting on the on one of our publicly available web pages, on the page called Meet Us, and you can go anytime. You can go back to this presentation and look at it more in detail if you want. There are also a lot of videos in it, but I'm going to skip right through and invite you to go to our YouTube channel if you're interested. There are a lot of new videos there from students, from faculty, so lots of fresh stuff. Okay, so I'm going to rush through some of these slides to try to maybe just stop on the things that I think are going to be the most relevant for you guys. So a little bit about the history and the development of the Graduate Institute, because I think that will help you understand a kind of very unique school that we are. The Graduate Institute was founded in Geneva in 1927. So that's just 3 years after the League of Nations was founded, right here in Geneva after the big war. And Geneva was becoming a hub, a place that was welcoming to diplomats, to representatives of nation states who needed to come together to hash things out, to present their views, to argue in a safe and a neutral place. And Geneva was beginning to play that role on the international scene, and it's still doing that very much today. So the Graduate Institute came to become the academic facet of that international hub that was here in Geneva. And so the Institute was providing academic training to those people, that nascent profession of professional diplomats and representatives. And also the Institute provided then and still today a forum, a place for people to come and do conferences, to present their opinions, to argue, to debate, to present their research and new ideas. So that's the kind of place that we are. In the 1970s, in the early 1970s, another school opened in Geneva that was focusing on development issues. This is, we're in post-colonial Europe, and European powers have just pulled out of their colonial outposts, mostly in Africa for the most part. And this institute was called at some point the Institute of African Studies, and then Development Studies. And in 2008, these two schools merged together. That's how we have a very long name. So we are the Institute of International and Development Studies. And you can still feel today the clash of those two worlds. So the international relations people, international affairs, tend to take a view of the world that looks at governance, looks at how the world is divided neatly into nation states and how they interact with one another, the economy, the legal framework, etc. But the development people tend to look at the world more from what we call kind of the bottom up. How are things playing out in the region? What happens when the neat borders between nation states aren't so neat anymore? People have had to cross them. Now we don't know what their status is, or maybe they're fighting over water coming from a river that doesn't really care very much about where the national border is. Looking at the distribution of wealth in the world, North and South, the global South. So looking at issues from a different perspective. And you can see in a minute how these two schools of thought, these two approaches are still very much vibrant and alive in the programs that we teach. And we think that that makes our programs dynamic and interesting. So just in terms of our size, I think you should know that we are not part of a bigger university. All we do is we teach these 5 disciplines in the social sciences, and we don't have any undergraduate programs. Okay, except for the 1 semester program, but we don't teach any undergraduate degrees. So we only have graduate students. They come from all over the world. We also have a large research community that comes together from all over the world to work in our 9 research centers, and they also teach. We also have teaching faculty who do research. So it's a very rich and very, very well qualified and international academic community that we have here in Geneva. So this makes us we have a new director, and she used a term that I really like. I'm going to use it from now on. She called us a boutique school. Kind of like that. So we are a niche school. We only focus on the social sciences, and that's all we do, and only from a global perspective. We are not going to train anyone in the national public policy of any one country. We also don't have even a regional focus. Some of the courses that we teach will have a regional focus, but we as a school do not. So our focus is very much global and international. So here you see the list of the programs that we teach, and you can see the 5 disciplines, along with the 2 interdisciplinary programs. And now you understand why they are what they are. So we have international affairs on the one hand and development studies on the other. All of our master degree programs are 2 years long, 4 semesters. And the way it breaks out is that students will take courses in the first 3 semesters and then spend the last one working on their master thesis. So this is a substantial piece of research the students have to write about in their 4th semester. The disciplinary programs go fairly deeply into each of the disciplines that they're concerned with. Students don't necessarily have to have an undergraduate degree with the same title, but they do need to have some background and knowledge of the discipline before they come. So this doesn't necessarily have to be the whole degree. It can be a minor, a major, a cluster of courses, but we don't expect to teach our graduate students, the 101 inter-level courses anymore. In the interdisciplinary programs, there are a few features that make them particularly well suited for students who probably are going to go straight into employment at the end of their studies, or they are a little bit more what we call professionalizing, right? So these students probably are not going to continue on to a PhD. And those features are the capstone project. So this is a project that students will start in their 2nd semester, finish in the 3rd. That is a research and applied research mandate handed to them by a real organization. It's not a fictitious, made up project. It's something that they really have to work on in a small team. There are also some short skills-based courses that we teach in this program that we don't teach in the others. So very practical skills like crisis communications, how to present a consultancy mandate to an organization if somebody wants to go and work as a consultant, how to use digital platforms, all kinds of very practical hands-on things like that. So these programs are a little bit more geared toward helping our students really hit the ground running in the employment market when they finish. So this is just a quick summary of what I just said. I'm going to skip through the videos. I see that I've used up a good 5 minutes of my time. These are the doctoral programs that lead on the same disciplines. So students who want to go directly from the MA to the doctoral program. I'm going to skip through the exchange opportunities. That probably is less relevant for you guys, but just so you can, I'm sorry?
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, just so you can kind of see what kind of partnerships we have around the world on the different continents. This is not an exhaustive list, but it will just give you a little bit of an idea. So the fastest growing list of partners right now is in Asia. I'm going to skip through the summer and the undergraduate programs just to let you know, this is again, probably not relevant so much, but it's just interesting to know that in addition to our research centers and the MA and PhD programs, the Graduate Institute also have executive education programs. This is for mid-career professionals coming back to reskill or upskill, and get these specific continuing education qualifications in these very specific subjects. These are usually 1 year or less. So unlike the 2-year MA programs that we have, and these are really geared to, really for people in a professional position. Skipping right through. So I'm going to stop for a minute on this next slide that just gives you a quick breakdown of where our students come from. They really come from just over 100 countries, and you can see, that only 15% of our students are Swiss. And I really like stopping and talking a little bit about this with international students. Pretty much everybody with us is an international student. And I think this is something that you really need to understand clearly about the kind of school that we are. Students do not come to the Graduate Institute for a full immersion in Swiss culture. because so few of our students are actually Swiss. We teach in English, not in French. And so, yes, you will probably get to taste cheese fondue and travel and all of that. But what our students are really getting is a full immersion into cross-culturalism, into what it's like to function and to build a tolerance and build an understanding of people who come from very, very diverse viewpoints. So it's very interesting for our students when they sit in the classroom. If we were teaching some program like mathematics or chemistry, it wouldn't really matter so much where the students come from, because they would be united around, you know, the science, the formulas, the things that don't really change no matter where you come from. But we don't teach math and chemistry. We teach values. We teach people to talk about politics. We teach people to appreciate how their own cultural, national narrative about world events, about historical events, is different from those of other people, right? So if I think about how I was taught about the Second World War, I will immediately have some notions that come into my mind because my grandparents and my parents and my teachers and my textbooks have all taught me about the Second World War in a specific way. And perhaps I never considered that somebody could have a very different idea of what happened in those years, until I get to a classroom at the Graduate Institute and have a discussion in class with somebody from the other side of the planet. So this can be a little bit destabilizing for some of us, you know, because we take it for granted so much that the way that we understand the world is the way everybody does. But this tension point is exactly where all the wonderful learning happens. It's in really learning to take that bird's eye kind of zoom out and develop that critical distance and the ability to hold up at the same time sometimes conflicting points of view. If we can teach you to do that, then we have really done what we set out to do. That's our mission, right? So not to get you to understand and adhere to any one doctrine or way of seeing things, but to really be able to have that multi-level viewpoint of the world. So this is an important point for us. So in terms of what our students do when they finish our studies, we look at 3 sectors, and our students fall, our young graduates fall evenly into the 3 sectors. The private sector, which is multinational corporations, maybe banks, big consultancy firms. The governmental or the public sector, so government jobs, policy jobs, perhaps representing a local or a regional government, or maybe at the national level, and maybe then moving back to the international arena, representing a country, for example, on a multilateral organization. And what we call the third sector, for lack of a better name, so the non-governmental organizations, the nonprofits, the startups, the entrepreneurial, et cetera, the think tanks, the advocacy groups. And we have about 6 of our students every year who go on to, from a PhD to an academic career. I can tell you more about the career services if you're interested, but I'm going to skip right through and just give you a little bit of information about Geneva. Geneva is a very small town with about 200,000 people. So it's tiny, really, but it's important to remember that about 1/4 or 1/5 of the people who live in Geneva are somehow involved in these international organizations. Because we have the UN headquarters here, the European headquarters of the United Nations, so many agencies and bodies, you know, orbit around the UN. We have diplomatic representations, multilateral organizations, UN agencies, and so on and so forth. And also European headquarters of a lot of corporations and trading firms as well. So lots and lots of opportunities for our students to network, to attend events, and also in terms of getting internships, getting work experience, and perhaps even jobs after they graduate. And you can see that we are right in the middle. I don't know if you can see my cursor on the screen. So where it says Maison de la Paix, that's our campus. And you can see that we are really just a short walk from the UN headquarters and all these international organizations. So I talked a little bit before about the events and the conferences. We have over 400 different conferences and events every year. That's more than one a day. So we're still very much doing what we set out to do back in the 1920s as a hub of discussion and debate here in Geneva. And by the time that the spring semester begins in February, we will have enough residential facilities to house all of our students. So that's, I think, quite an important achievement for a tiny school like us, but I think that's just an important practical thing to keep in mind. So we talked about the application process for us. For you guys, the deadline is going to be the 1st of March, and you can see how the process works here. So everything is online. Once your application is complete, it will be evaluated by the professors in the department to which you apply, not by us in the admission office. So that's just good to know. And these are the 3 deadlines, and the one that applies to you is the 1st of March. And the decisions will then come early April. So I'm done with the presentation. I think I've just about stretched my 15 minutes. I'm sorry about that.
No, thank
I'll
you.
stop sharing the screen here, and let's see if anybody has any questions, or would you prefer to leave all the questions to the end?
Well, I think what we'll do is have Neva just speak for a couple of minutes, talk about her experience there, and then we'll open it up for questions. So Neva, why don't you tell us a bit about your experience in your year and a half there?
Sure. So just tell you a little bit about me. I was a government major at Smith. I didn't study history before coming here, but I did do I did the junior year abroad in Geneva, or it was a semester abroad, I guess. And during that time, I took classes at the Institute, and I just kind of like blindly picked ones that were interesting to me without paying attention to like what department they were in. And I really loved the classes that I was taking. And afterwards I realized that they were all in the history department. And it didn't really feel that way to me, because like my idea of history is, I don't know, it's more traditional, like super rooted in the past. But I loved the approaches they took and the kinds of thinking and analysis that we did. And so when it came time for me to apply for the BA+MA program, because I knew that I wanted to go back to Geneva and I wanted to go back to the Institute, I just decided to apply to the history program so that I could work with the professors that I had loved so much during my junior year abroad. I mean, my experience has been really wonderful. It's changed my life in a lot of ways. I didn't know for sure that I wanted to work in the international sector, but after coming here and talking to my classmates and the other people that are kind of like drawn to Geneva, I realized that it just made the most sense, and everything sort of clicked. Like all of the issues that I really cared about, the hub was here. The hub was in Geneva in Switzerland. And so I just knew that I had to come back. Let's see, in terms of like my experience from the student side, the housing has been great. Like it's perfect in many ways. It's extremely convenient. It's like, at least where I live in Picciotto, it's about like 100 meters from the Institute itself. And so I can get out of bed at like 10 minutes before my class. I don't do that, of course. But if I had to, I could, and walk to class. I share a flat with 3 other students. None of them are BA+MA students. 2 of them are from India and 1 is from China. Yeah, I mean, I guess to kind of echo what Michal said earlier, I think that like by far the best thing about my time here has been being able to live and learn in the cosmopolitan environment. Like, I don't know if there really is any other school or any other place where you could meet so many people from so many different parts of the world. I mean, that's the best thing. Like, that's the thing that I'm really going to take away from this. Obviously, my education here has been amazing, but being like knowing that I have friends in India and in Japan and in South America, it just sort of changes like the vision you have for your life in the future. And also obviously like radically alters the way that you see the world. But I think especially especially for Americans, like the cosmopolitan environment that everyone's been talking about is particularly valuable because US narratives of world affairs can be so totalizing within the country. And so if you spend your entire education trying to learn about international issues from within the US, like there's just so much that you're going to miss. So yeah, I mean, if you're somebody that knows that you want to work in the international sector or want to work on international issues in some sort of way, I mean, this would be the place to do it because you can get so much firsthand experience actually talking to people who have like personal vested interests in these topics that can be really abstract, like access to water and that sort of thing. Yeah, is there anything specific, Howard, that you want me to touch on?
No, you really did a great job presenting the Institute and your experience there. I had some questions, but I have some questions that I can ask, but I would rather open the floor to our visit to the students here. And people want to open the participants panel and raise your hand that way. Questions about admissions, about studies there, about the tracks, about the process. Why don't we start with Lorena?
Yeah, I just had a few questions about what you guys would describe the global perspective that you're talking about as. So for example, how that global perspective affects your studies, Neva, or how it goes into the interdisciplinary studies. And also if we, like when we apply, should we have a research topic in mind for the master's program, or will we be working on that? Yeah, okay.
Why don't we answer that last part first? Michal, do you want to answer? When they apply, do they need to have a research topic in mind?
No, absolutely not. You would if you were applying for a doctoral degree, but we don't expect that from a master degree applicants. That would be a little early for you guys. So no, you need to maybe start thinking about that research topics in semester 3. Talk to your professors, make sure that you're on track, that you know who's going to supervise that research project, make sure that you have access to the resources that you need, and then you start writing it. I mean, you can start writing it earlier, but it's really the 4th semester that you spend focusing on it. So no, we do not expect you to tell us what your research orientation is at the time that you apply. In fact, we don't require that as an application document.
And the first half of Lorena's question was more about sort of global perspectives, right? In the interdisciplinary courses, is that what you were getting at?
Yes, I just wanted to know how you guys work on implementing global perspectives in the studies. But I mean, I would be interested in something interdisciplinary, but I think Neva could talk about her disciplinary studies and the globalism in her disciplinary studies as well.
Sure. I mean, I think that honestly, different professors have different approaches, but it comes up really naturally. It's not something that needs to be like implemented because, in a given classroom, you'll have people from all over the world. And so if it's a colloquium, and we're talking about some sort of abstract topic, like last year I had a class on slavery and histories of slavery. And I mean, if I had taken that class in the US, it would have been about transatlantic slavery and forced labor in the US. But because we had people from Asia and Australia and like South America, there were just all of these, like everyone brought kind of their own national histories and contexts and like the knowledge that they had about different kinds of forced labor or different histories of slavery, wherever they were coming from. I mean, I learned as much from the students as I did from the professors because the professor also is limited by their nationality. And also I felt like broadened my understanding of slavery, but I mean, whatever sort of topic you're looking at, it's just not possible to like get a full picture of like the global scale of the topic from a professor. And so because you're in graduate school and everyone is like very smart and a lot of people already have work experience and everyone is coming from different places, it kind of feels like you're in a class with like 20 professors sometimes instead of just one. And I think that that really does apply to both the MINT programs and the disciplinary programs. It's just kind of like a function of the environment.
Good, thank you. So we have a couple of other questions here. Sarabi?
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for the presentation. It looks really exciting. My question, I have two questions. The first question is like, what do you look for when you look at the application? Like, do we need to have like a professional experience, like internships relating to like international affairs, or like grades, obviously, but like what are some criterias, or like what are some things that you look for? And my second question is about the financial aid. Like, how is the financial aid determined for a student? Like, is it merit-based or is it need-based? So yeah, thank you.
Good questions.
I have a feeling those are both for me, right? But Neva, jump in if you have something to add from your own application experience. So in a nutshell, we're looking for we're looking for top academic ability document. We're going to be looking at what you studied and how you did in those courses. So we're going to look at your coursework, and we're going to look at your grades. So once the committee is reassured that you are a good student, that you have the academic ability, that you can write well, etc., then they will look at something that is intangible and that I've been trying to crystallize, and it's difficult. They call it intellectual curiosity. I call it something like academic maturity. And it's that ability, like I described, to develop that global vision, right? So that ability to have a horizon that's very wide and that encompasses and takes in different points of view, different perspectives, sometimes even conflicting ones. Now, how do you achieve that and how do you document that? I have no idea. And it's really an individual thing, and you don't necessarily have to already have achieved it. We just want to know that you have the potential for that. What we don't want to see, I guess, is easier to describe than what we do. You know, they will tend to shy away a little bit from the profile of students who are like 100% formatted, right? You've gone through some kind of a very strict academic system, and you've gone through it all the way through to the end of your undergraduate studies, and you haven't really strayed left and right. We want to see the students who were, you know, had that rebellious research project, that, you know, read the opinion of somebody that nobody else read, or that their professor hadn't really assigned. Or, you know, and it can really be anything. It's really a question of how you make sense of your own experiences. Maybe you had to bus tables at a restaurant to, you know, make some money, but you met a customer and you had a conversation, and, you know, your viewpoint on the world just kind of grew from that. Maybe that's all it was. Maybe it was a foreign language. Maybe it was a travel experience. You know, it'll be something different for everyone, but it's up to you to you know, kind of make sense of your own experiences in that way. And the place to do that is in the motivation letter, which is really a cover letter, right? So we don't assign an essay question. We just give you a free hand for that, you know, page and a half to, you know, show us what's the common thread in your own story, and how can you demonstrate that a little bit of a curiosity, a little bit of an inquisitive mind, and that ability to have that critical distance.
And if I could just add, you can use the personal statement that you developed for Smith as the basis for your motivation letter or personal statement when you apply to the graduate institute. And I'm happy, I've done this for students in the house, I'm happy to look over your personal statements. And the second half of the question had to do with financial aid.
Right. So just to finish that, just to reassure everyone, we do not require work experience. Okay, that's not a requirement. Again, if you have some, it might strengthen everything else that we just said, but if you don't, that's fine. Financial aid. So if you do qualify for US federal loans, I believe, please know that I know nothing about that, but our colleagues in international programs do. So there's something that you can speak to. Other than that, the application for financial aid is somehow enmeshed in the application for admission, but be reassured that the evaluation process is completely need blind. once we know to whom we have made an admission offer, then the financial aid committee will have access to the list of people who've requested aid. And so the first thing that they're going to determine is need. Okay, so need is definitely the most important factor. We'll ask you to document your financial need. Once they've determined that, they will also look at academic ability. And then they do some kind of magic formula to combine those two factors. But if you have not documented sufficient need, sufficient in the sense that it's higher than all the other people who've requested aid that you're competing with, then you know, your financial aid application probably will not get very far. So we really try to prioritize the most needy students.
Remember that the financial aid you would be getting would apply to your 5th year, not because of our exchange. That for fall semester of the 4th of your senior year, you would still be under Smith's financial package. Nora, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. So one thing to know that I didn't really feel like I understood when I was applying is that there's 2 facets of the financial aid, and one of them is a tuition waiver. And then the other one is a scholarship where you would get a stipend of like $2,000 or a half scholarship of $1,000 per month to support your life, pay rent, that kind of thing. And then the tuition waiver is like, I think that there's a partial one, but the premise is that they cancel your tuition payment so you don't have to pay tuition. And they're not connected, so you can get one without the other.
Okay, Nora, we have several hands up. Nora?
Yeah, I was just wondering if there was an internship component or a practical experience component of either the semester during senior year or the year.
So internships are not required. It's not part and parcel of the curriculum. But if you're interested in doing an internship, then we will support you. Our career service and the department that you're in will support your search for an internship. And you can actually request to have that internship count for academic credit. I think it's 3 credits. It might be 6. I'm not sure right now. And in that case, we would want to make sure that, you know, we've really, the contents of the internship is really interesting, that it's supervised properly, that you have some learning outcomes and goals, etc. But so yeah, just keep in mind, I don't think this would apply to you guys, but I'll say it anyway. If you're not Swiss or an EU citizen, then there is a Swiss law that says that you're not permitted to work at all for the first 6 months of your stay in Switzerland. And that includes even unpaid internships. Okay, so you can start working in whatever capacity only from the beginning of your 7th month in Switzerland.
What happens to students who are in the BA+MA program who are in Geneva for the fall of their senior year? They then come back to the US, and so they can only work in their final semester. Does the clock start over?
I'm not sure. I'll let Eliane respond to that one. Eliane, do you know?
Yes, indeed. As a matter of fact, when the students, they go back to do the spring semester at Smith College, they will have to announce their departure to the migration office, which as a consequence, they have to reapply again for a visa, for an entry visa, and as such, everything has to start again. And that's why during their fall semester of their third semester, then at the Graduate Institute, they will not be able to work.
Right, or do an internship.
Yeah.
Even an unpaid internship, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, good, thank you. Danielle?
Yeah, I was supposed to ask about the work thing, but also, would you say that there's a disadvantage to studying, like to taking the master's degree in 3 semesters instead of in 4?
Well, you do lose out 1 semester at the Graduate Institute, but there's a tremendous financial savings. There's no reason to be in a rush, and most people who do it, Neva, you might want to speak to this a little bit. I mean, I think there are people who want to go on in this field, but essentially are concerned about the cost. And this is, as I said earlier, a very efficient way of doing it. And of course, spending 4 semesters in Geneva is preferable to spending 3 semesters in Geneva. And Neva, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I guess one other thing to think about, for me, it was definitely a financial decision, was a big part of it. But one other thing to think about is that in Europe, undergraduate degrees are 3 years. And so actually, I'm like the same age as most of the people in my program and most of the people in other programs. And so if you're somebody that's concerned about like, if you want to work in Europe or you want to work in like the international world, and you're worried about like being on track, I mean, doing this puts you like at the same kind of, you're doing your master's as at the same time as like European students are. But as like Howard said, you know, it doesn't have to like give you anxiety. There's all sorts of reasons to take your time, but that is definitely something to think about.
Maybe if I could,
go
sorry,
ahead, please. No, you go ahead,
maybe,
Eliane.
yeah. Maybe there's one thing I would like to add to that is, as you mentioned, Micha, before, students who are doing their BA+MA program, they cannot apply to the US direct loans. Whereas if you choose to do the full master program at the Graduate Institute, you are able to apply to the US direct loans. That will be also, that will be one of the difference, but then you are losing 1 year.
Yeah, that's a good point. Sarabi, your hand is up again.
Yeah, so my question was like, while we are there in the fall, the classes that we take that transfers to Smith, like that counts as a Smith credit, right?
Yes, I'll let Lisa answer that if she wants to.
Yeah, sure. So absolutely. So the fall semester of your senior year is considered a study abroad semester. And so the courses that you take while you're abroad transfer back as transfer credit to your Smith degree. You can, depending on the course, have those same courses count towards fulfilling requirements for a major, or just simply requiring, you know, completing credits, enough credits to receive your degree. I do think it's important. They said earlier that you by the end of your junior year, you have to have 96 credits on your academic record. So if you're in a situation where you're behind on credits right now, you need to make sure that you're planning to take enough credits so that you are senior standing by the time that you get to Geneva. Most students have had more, but I just want to throw that out there. It's important.
Also, one more thing. So what, like, is it possible to know like what kind of classes are offered? Like what are the most popular classes taken by like students when they are in Geneva?
Well, I can just, some of your classes will be required depending on your track. So there'll be a required component, and then there will be electives. I think Neva or Michal could perhaps speak to that.
Go ahead, Neva. You probably know better than I do. What are the hot classes right now?
I mean, I can only talk about my own experience, but I know that, like, yeah, at least in the disciplinary programs, and then I think it's actually more in the interdisciplinary programs, but don't quote me on that. You have to take at least one required course for the first 3 semesters. 2, okay. For me, it was 1. But after that, you still have 4 electives. I mean, they have to be like some within your discipline and then a certain number outside, but you have a lot of choice. Right now, I'm in a class that is pretty large and has people from a lot of different disciplines called the International History of Racism. It's a new class, and so that's one of them. Yeah, I'm trying to think what else is like hot right now.
Maybe the question that's hiding behind this question is, I just don't know this, Neva. Before you had to actually register for classes, did you have access to other students who could give you their feedback? So in the regular application process, once we start rolling out the admission decisions, all of our students join a Facebook group. They can talk to each other, and then we get the student associations, or current students, to join that group as well. And they can start to have some conversations. And I imagine that offline, people ask one another, you know, who's a great professor? What do you think about this one? Did you have access to any kind of current student feedback?
Yeah, absolutely. The best resource for me in my first year was students, and my program was small, so they were super like active and welcoming, and had lots to tell us about like which courses were really good, which professors were like really helpful, that kind of stuff. So yeah, I definitely had access.
Okay, great. Sarah, we still have a couple hands up. Sarah?
Yeah, I just want to say that there's also a course catalog online, because that was kind of nice for me just to read over some of the courses that were going on. And the other thing I was going to ask was about French actually. So I've taken 2 years of French at Smith, and like a personal goal of mine is like to be professionally proficient in French. And I'm wondering how does that work in terms of like, how do you get students from maybe, you know, a decent level of French to an actual like being able to use it in a professional environment?
Unfortunately, we don't actually offer courses in advanced French. We only take students from a beginner level to kind of an intermediate level. That's our promise. So if you're coming in with some proficiency, there may not actually be a course for you at the Graduate Institute. However, there are lots and lots of opportunities to learn French in Geneva or to perfect and improve your French. You know, I can talk for some length of time about that, but you've got informal language exchanges with another person. You've got formal private language schools that are very good. You've got the University of Geneva that has a whole language, you know, one of their specializations is translation in languages. So they do it really well, and you can take courses there. And then, you know, if you already come with some proficiency, there's nothing stopping you from, you know, doing an internship in French, or, you know, doing some kind of, you know, pre-professional experience using French, and that will definitely get you up to speed.
I could add our regular study abroad director in Geneva, Geneviève Piron, could probably give you lots of advice on French class.
And maybe also to add, sorry, Howard, maybe also to add that we do have very few courses at the Graduate Institute which are also being taught in French. So you also have the possibility of selecting one of these courses.
Well, we've run over a bit. We started a bit late, but do we have any other hands up? Any final questions? Sarabi, we'll go ahead, please.
I'm asking a lot of questions.
No, it's with pleasure.
But my question was, so you said interdisciplinary track, not the disciplinary, interdisciplinary. If you take the interdisciplinary track, people don't really like go towards like graduate, the PhD program. They go towards like employment. But like, are there cases where people have taken interdisciplinary and like thought, oh, like I really want to complete my PhD, so like gone and like studied more further?
Yes, we do have those cases. They're very few and far between. I mean, less than 5 students every year, maybe 1 or 2. And to be quite honest with you, I don't know what it is that makes them eligible to go into the PhD. I'm not sure whether they already have another master's degree before they do this, or if they're just able to build enough depth into their interdisciplinary curriculum to make sure that they, again, reassure the PhD admission committee, the doctoral the selection committee, that they have enough depth, you know, in the discipline to do that kind of laser sharp, deep dive into the field for their doctoral research. One way or another, that's the kind of reassurance they have to provide to the selection committee. It may be that they actually have a very early idea of what they want to research, and they're able to kind of, you know, compose a program that addresses those topics, and they, you know, make sure to network with the right faculty members early on as well to get their support and to get their guidance.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Olivia.
Hi, yeah, I'm curious, are January grads eligible for this program? Because then your like final senior fall looks different.
I think we've gone through this before. So they're asking students who graduate Smith in January instead of May, would they be eligible? And I don't think so. I don't think the timing works because, Lisa, you can help me with this, but you have to have completed 3 full years worth of credit at Smith. And you have only 1 more semester? Is that what you're suggesting?
No, sorry. I'm about to start my junior year. I've only 2 years.
Start your junior. Lisa, what do you think?
Well, I think there's two things that are coming into play.
I don't think it'll work.
The first thing is that the first of the 3 semesters of the joint
Yes.
BA+MA is only offered in the fall.
That's right.
So that's the first thing. So if you were to do this before you're a senior, I'm not sure, and I'll let Eliane and Michal answer this. I don't know that second semester juniors are eligible for that fall semester. So in your case, your fall, we're talking about fall 2021, which would be the second semester of your junior year. And I don't know if you're eligible for that, and from the viewpoint of the graduate institute.
You'd also be out of sync with the cohort that you're in at the graduate, that you're with at the graduate institute, because they're going to all start in September and you would be starting a semester later. I know we've had this discussion.
No, that's not the question, Howard. I think the question is still starting in the fall, but there would be
fall of which year?
Of the junior of her junior year.
But then she wouldn't have enough credits.
Well, that's what I was just saying. I don't know that if from the graduate institute, if they'd be a second semester junior is eligible.
Essentially, Eliane, what this question means is, could they start without having finished 3 full years at Smith?
For me, the information I have is that they would be in Geneva during their 4th year of their bachelor studies.
Right, that's right, exactly.
Yeah.
It has to be during your 4th year. In other words, it has to be, best case, either semester 7 or 8.
Right. And then I think to Howard's point, Olivia, is that the joint BA+MA doesn't have a spring start.
That's right.
Right. It only starts in the fall.
Unfortunately, Olivia, we've been through this before, and we thought about this, and I remember discussing this with Eliane, and it didn't work. Okay, are there any final questions? We've kept you long enough. Are there any final questions? If not, let me thank everybody for coming. Let me say you're welcome to email me with questions. I can route them to Michal or Eliane, or you can write to Lisa too. We're happy to help. I just wanted to let everybody know, for those who are interested in regular study abroad in Geneva, there will be another information session on November 9th. So you can contact me or Lisa or the Office of International Study for details on that. And I'd especially like to thank Michal and Eliane for—
And Neva.
And Neva, of course. Neva spoke so nicely about your experiences there. I'd like to thank all of you, especially for taking a good chunk out of your evenings.
Well, many thanks, Howard, for organizing this, and thank you, Lisa, also, and of course, all the students who are interested in this program. And one thing I would like to also add is to please ask all the candidates. Of course, they have to apply through your office, Howard. They have to be nominated, and they need to use the special link.
I remember that.
Which we still haven't sent you because I haven't received it yet.
There's no rush.
But yeah, exactly. So you will need to apply through this special link so that we could really follow your applications.
So when Lisa and I and others finish going through the files, and we recommend, at that point we'll tell you you've been nominated, and we'll give you specific instructions for how to apply as a Smith College BA+MA student. And that's what Eliane is referring to, a dedicated link for our applicants, so they can monitor your applications.
I just want to say before we disband that if anyone wants to talk to me in an informal capacity, I can ask Howard to put my email around, and I'm happy.
Yeah, for sure. I'm happy to put you in touch with Neva too, for sure.
Well,
thank you.
Can I just say one more thing? Sorry.
Sure.
So for those of you who are juniors who are seriously considering this, remember that the application deadline for Smith in Sites, which is our online application portal, that's due February 8th, right? And that's before the start of the spring semester. So if you're all good planners and time managers and stuff, make sure that you put that February deadline in your agendas and calendars.
Okay, great. Well, thanks.
I just want to say a big thank you for me. May I, Howard, just say?
Sure, of course.
You know, it's hard for us because all the in-person grad school college fairs have been canceled, and so I'm just so grateful for every opportunity that we have to meet online with our prospective students wherever they are around the world. And you guys are have a great reputation as students at the Graduate Institute. You know, we want to see you. We love having you. So thank you so much for this opportunity to meet with you. So if you need more information, you already have a lot of people that you can go to. Let me add just a couple of things. You can obviously reach out to Eliane and to myself online. If you go to the same page where where that presentation is housed, the Meet Us page, you can also make an online appointment with me, although I'm not very well versed in the BA+MA intricacies. But we have a new student work study in our office, and she is in the interdisciplinary program, and she will add her link as well. So it will be possible for you guys to make an appointment online with her and get a student perspective if you want an additional one from an interdisciplinary program in addition to Neva's wonderful feedback. And then one more thing, don't hesitate to go to our news page. So from the main navigation on our website, you can land on news, and there is a quick link to go and sign up to a whole bunch of newsletters. So we don't send out emails anymore because of data protection and all of that, but you can sign up to a whole number of newsletters, and that really helps to kind of keep an eye out on what's going on at the Graduate Institute. What are people researching? What are they talking about? What are they doing? What are they, whatever. So, you know, so I invite you to, you know, connect with us via the newsletter and the podcasts, and also the wonderful events that I mentioned earlier. Almost everything is going to be online from going forward. And so that means that people all over the world can now join our events. You don't have to, you know, sign up and come to the auditorium in person. And so again, I invite you to come and join our conferences online. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody. Really appreciate everybody being here. Have a good rest of your day, and thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Thank you both so much. I just want to hang on a sec, please. Just a sec.
Are you wanting us to stay?
Oh yeah, stay just for 1 sec.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. This was really good. I mean, it was actually the turnout was quite impressive. I urged all my colleagues to announce this in their classes, and I think in a way the Zoom environment makes it easier for students to attend. I expect we may have a lot of applicants just because there's so much uncertainty here. I think people are looking for different avenues and different opportunities. So I've gotten a lot of inquiries, even from students who didn't show up. I had a list of students who had contacted me. So I think we may get, and that's my expectation.
That's good news.
Yeah.
Within this uncertain world we're living in.
Yeah, I think, and the people are trying to flee the United States to some degree as well.
Just a few more days, you know.
We're with you.
Yeah,
we're with you.
I appreciate the sentiments. Anyway, thank you again. I'm really grateful, Michal, for that great presentation.
You're welcome.
And for all your help, Eliane, as always. So
Thank
we'll be
you.
in touch soon.
Thank you, and sorry again about the time difference.
No, it worked out
I was at the post office, and I'm thinking all of a sudden, it's like, oh
my computer was in my car. Had to run. Anyway, it worked out. Sorry about that.
No worries at all. Okay, take care.
Take care, you too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.